Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. This is John. I am the event coordinator here at Murder by the Book. And before we get started with tonight's event, I wanted to give everybody a little bit of a rundown of stuff that's been going on with us. We are doing in-store events again. We're super excited. The last couple of months, we've had more in-store stuff than virtual stuff. So make sure you check out the calendar at murderbooks.com. You'll see things listed either as in-store or virtual. Next up, we have local author Karen Steik is going to be at the store on Saturday. Next Tuesday, Michael Connolly is going to be in store. We'll have Lisa Unger on Wednesday, Lauren Nossett on Thursday, and Mayor Robinette Kowal on Saturday, which we're super excited for. We're also really excited if you are local. In February, we are going to have Elle Cosimano with us in store to sign the new Finlay Donovan book. So I'll drop some links to that in the chat while we are talking. Also coming up on Saturday, November 26th, which is Small Business Saturday, we'll be doing our next round of Murder by the Book Recommends at noon. And then we'll also have some guest author booksellers in the store from 2 to 4 that day. So hope that you guys will check that stuff out. While Elle and Cherie are talking tonight, if you have questions for them about new books, previous books, anything, you can post those in the live chat on YouTube or the comments on Facebook, and we will get to them in a bit. And also wanted to mention before we get started, so Cherie's book was originally supposed to come out this past Tuesday, but they postponed the pub date for it till November 15th. But the publisher, since we'd already had the event set up, was able to get us copies. We have signed book plates to go with them. So if you order your copy from Murder by the Book, and I'll drop links for that, you will be able to get it before the official pub date. Also, if you want to pre-order Elle's new book, Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, we will have signed copies of it when it is out in February, and I'll drop links for those as well. But for now, I'm going to get our authors out and get us started. I'm going to start with we're going to start with Cherie since she has a guest in her lap. How are you, Cherie?
Hi, I'm pin-cushioned right now.
Congratulations on the release of the new book, Flight Risk.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very excited. I would be more excited if everybody had the book right now, but what can you do? It's stuck in a port somewhere. These things happen. Cats happen. Yeah, what are you going to do?
So Flight Risk is Cherie's new book. Officially, Cherie Priest is the author of 24 novels and novellas, including the horror novel The Toll, acclaimed gothic Maplecroft, and the award-winning Clockwork Century series, beginning with Boneshaker. She's been nominated for the Hugo Award and the Nebula Award, and she won the Locus Award for Best Horror Novel. Her books have been translated into 9 languages in 11 countries. She lives in Seattle, Washington with her husband and a menagerie of exceedingly photogenic pets. And now I'm going to bring out Elle Cosimano, who's going to be chatting with us tonight. How are you tonight, Elle?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for doing this with us. So Elle's most recent release is Finlay Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead, which is the second book in the series. It will be out in paperback pretty soon. And then the third book in the series, Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, will be out January 31st. And like I said, she'll be at the store in February to sign with us. But Elle Cosimano is the USA Today bestselling author, an International Thriller Award winner, and Edgar Award nominee. Her debut novel for adults, Finlay Donovan is Killing It, kicked off a witty, fast-paced contemporary mystery series, which was a People magazine pick and was named one of the New York Public Library's best books of 2021. In addition to writing novels for teens and adults, her essays have appeared in HuffPost and Time, and she lives with her husband and 2 sons in Virginia. As I said, if you guys out there watching have any questions for the authors tonight, please post those in the comments and we'll get to them in a bit. But for now, Elle, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you guys chat, and I will see you in just a bit.
Thanks so much, John.
And I'm sorry, my cat is beside me trying to beat into my closet. Stop.
This is great. Sidebar entertainment. I love it. I love it.
What can you do? I mean, she's nearly 20 pounds. Like, I can't, there's only so much I can do about her behavior, quite frankly.
20 pounds.
With a bobcat.
Oh, nice. That is awesome. Well, I am very excited to hear more about your menagerie of pets tonight, because when we were exchanging emails, I'm curious about so many things. And there's one specific pet that is not in your home menagerie that I'm very curious to ask about tonight as we talk about Flight Risk. There's a particular pet that I do want to ask about. But it's so good to finally meet you. I'm such
Likewise, you seem like so much fun. I was disappointed to see how far away you were from Seattle. I'm like, oh, we can exchange drink recipes. I'll take her out for chocolate teas. It'll be great.
Well, this is perfect. This is awesome, and I'm so glad just to be able to be here with you and talk about your series. I am a huge fan of Grave Reservations. I listened to it last year when it came out on audio because I'm a big audiobook listener. Long drives, love it, and the narrator for that book was so fantastic. I had such a wonderful time with it. It was such a great kickoff to the series. And so I was like over the moon when this came in the mail. I'm so excited to read this. Your covers are just...
I know. I'm blessed by the cover fairy. Yes.
You are. I mean, like the illustrations and the colors, it just pops. They just pop. And they're so intriguing how they, they put the little teasers. So, I'm definitely going to ask about that little teaser here shortly, but this is gorgeous and the series is fantastic. And I'm just such a huge fan, and it's so wonderful to be here to celebrate with you tonight. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On the second book. It's so exciting. I have prepared so many questions, and we will probably like derail and have fun.
Yeah. No, I'm a bottle rocket of nonsense. Like I will just keep talking really fast in whatever direction you point me, pretty much is
good. Well, I'm going to point you in some directions because I'm curious about a lot of things.
Okay.
And I visited your website this week, and I read
my rarely updated website. Sorry about that.
I read some great stuff there that really kind of gave me some insight into your career and your bibliography and your process. And I was like, I'm so in awe. You've got about 24 publications like to your name, which is huge. I mean, that's just so huge. But the list of awards and recognition that go with those, I mean, Hugo and Nebula and Locus and PNBA and Endeavor, and you've got this like whole collection of state reading lists for your YA books. And so, a lot of these, we're talking like sci-fi and fantasy and horror, which I love. And you've got this fantastic bibliography behind you. And Grave Reservations is a real departure from those kinds of books. So I'm curious because it's such a, it's such a familiar jump because I myself jumped from very, very different books to mystery or, contemporary adult mystery. And so I was really curious about that departure. And was it really a huge departure for you? What's the connective tissue there? And why this particular move?
Well, it's never just one thing. It was kind of a collection of things. I started writing Grave Reservations probably at this point about 5 years ago. And I kind of felt like maybe the world was dark enough right now, and I had been putting out all of this really dark stuff, really spooky stuff, really, whatever. And I just my heart wasn't in it for another project. I don't know, man. We'd also just moved. We did a big cross country move, and again, I think it's our third. And there was a lot of upheaval, and I was very tired, and things were very bad in the global zeitgeist. And I found myself watching a lot of TV, and I've always been a mystery girl. I got my start like pop culturally reading mysteries. So the thing I always have to explain, because there are some really weird gaps in my pop culture history. So my parents divorced when I was about 4 or 5, and my mom is a fundie, and my dad is not. And I bounced back and forth between them a lot. But at Mom's house, we were not allowed to have fiction unless it was Christian fiction or literature. And my mom's entire criteria for that was, is the author dead? So a dead author was fair game as far as Mom's concerned. And so, but I got mysteries because my dad figured like that was his workaround. Like, well, okay, here's, the Edgar Allan Poe compendium that'll sink a canoe, and here's the Sherlock Holmes one, boom. And here's, and Agatha Christie's and Nancy Drew's and that kind of thing. Nancy Drew I wasn't allowed to have, but Agatha Christie I could have. And in fact, once I checked out some books from the library, some Nancy Drew. I was about 10, and hid them because I know my mom, and she found them and she threw them away and made me pay the library back out of my own allowance.
Oh no.
Yes, I should have known better than to invite the presence of Satan into her home. So when I say I have weird pop culture gaps, like I got my start with Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes, with Dash Hammett, and I will ride or die for the Continental Op above Philip Marlowe. Get thee away from me. All that good stuff. But the problem is for a lot of these guys, like Agatha Christie and Doyle in particular, I got them all in one book. So I have a hard time remembering like which story is which, but I've read them all like 5 times. They're just hard to parse out in my head. But that's kind of become my comfort reading. You know what I mean? And when things are down, I go to mysteries. I go to comfort mysteries. And I discovered the TV show Psych. And I discovered it a little late. And so me and my husband were binge watching it. And like 8 seasons, 11 seasons, something crazy like that. We just went through all of them in one summer. And I was sitting there like, you know what? These mysteries are really not that complicated. We're not actually turning up for these puzzles. We're here because we like these characters. We like this setting. We like these people. We like this tone. And it's soothing. It is familiar and yet interesting. It's walking that really nice line between novel and familiar. And so I was watching much of that and Leverage. We binged a whole bunch of seasons of that and CSI and all of these things. So I was like, you know what? I think I would like to write a mystery. That's what I wanted to. But at the time, I was supposed to be writing something for the Wild Cards, which is a George R.R. Martin side project. I've been working for him doing that since I think 2010, I want to say. And I was doing an interstitial for something. It's a little complicated to explain. I won't bore you. But the long story short, I had to somehow craft a mystery with a bunch of missing pieces from something that had been published back in the 80s and filling in a bunch of gaps. And I had tried to do a mystery before with the first thing I put out with them, which was for Fort Freak. And I did the interstitial for that mosaic as well. But he held my hand a lot on that. I really needed a lot of help on that. That was really way too complicated. I dove in feet first and was like, let's do all the things. And he's like, I don't know about that.
That's quite a hand to hold, though. That's amazing.
Yes. No, seriously. I learned more from that first round with Wild Cards, I think I did, than I did with my MA in writing.
Wow.
But like having a really good editor. And the convenient thing about Wild Cards is like everything's just up to King George. You're not answering to, publicity and marketing and an editor and the editor's boss. It's just him. He's the only person you have to make happy.
That's amazing.
Right. So when I'm doing the next one for him for this other book that came out, trying to kind of reassemble it, even though it was in fragments, when I finally gave it to him and I was like, he's either going to love this or hate this. His entire response to it was like one line of email. He's like, there you go. Now you know how to write a mystery. Go write your own.
Oh, wow.
Like, ooh, I have been blessed.
Yes. And nudged. I mean, that's.
Now I know what I'm doing, right? I think maybe. Kind of all of that stuff collided with something that actually happened to me about 8 or 9 years ago.
Yes, this story I kind of had a little taste of it online, and I want you to tell everybody before we do that, though, for people who maybe are joining us tonight who have not yet dipped their toes into Grave Reservations and the Booking Agent series. Can you kind of give us like the quick setup of like where we begin the series and then I want to hear like from there, I want you to roll right into that story because I need to hear more about that.
Okay. The elevator pitch is a inconsistently psychic travel agent teams up with the Seattle PD detective and they fight crime. That's pretty much it. So I will say this first as a transition. Sometimes when people are like, ooh, where do you get your ideas? Because we all get that question 80 times a month. For me, it's never the one thing. Although this reference is starting to become dated because we're getting old. The video game Katamari Damacy, if anybody remembers that, where you have this little thing and you're pushing it along and stuff sticks to it and the ball gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you're pushing this massive thing. It's like that. It's like idea hits idea and they stick together. And they find another idea and that sticks together. And eventually the gravitational pull becomes something big enough to be a book. And that's what happened with it. I'm sorry, this cat is driving me insane. Would you stop that? She's trying to pry my closet doors open and she knows she's not allowed in there, but she also realizes I'm doing something and I'm not going to get up and chuck her out. So,
they're so smart. They're just so smart.
She's just a jerk. She's a furry little jerk. She's cute. She's cute. It works for her. But anyway, About 8 or 9 years ago, I was at a convention in Texas. So I'm from the Gulf Coast. Like I said, parents divorced. Dad was in the Army, and Mom, and we moved in with my grandparents, and he was a minister. He moved every 2 or 3 years too. So I bounced around a lot, but I mostly was on the Gulf Coast. So I was really excited to go to this event that was in Galveston. And I don't remember what it was called. I feel like a jerk about that. I'm really sorry, whatever it was. But it was an event in Galveston, and it was in January. And there was a storm coming up in the Gulf. And obviously, it's not going to be a hurricane in January. But the Southeast treats snow exactly like the Northwest does, where like each individual flake falls from the sky with a Ziploc baggie full of used hypodermic needles. Everybody is just in a panic about it. So everyone is just fleeing this event on Sunday, trying to get out ahead of the storm. Me too. Because at the time I lived in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I went to college and graduate school there and met my husband there. And we've been bouncing back and forth between there and Seattle for about the last, I think we first moved out here in 2006. So for a hot minute. But anyway, I was in Chattanooga at this time. And I get in the car. I'm leaving the event, like, whoo, got the stuff, headed for the airport. And you got to go to Houston. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours away, depending on traffic. So the event had arranged the travel. So I'm in the car and I get a text message. All of a sudden, it's like, hi, I'm your travel agent. I was really hoping to catch you before you left the event, but that's all right. Here's your new confirmation number and your new flight information. And I'm like, sorry, excuse me, what? And she's like, yeah, I changed your flight. I'm really sorry. I just had a really bad feeling about that one. What with the storm coming and all. But don't worry. Your new flight leaves 30 minutes later from the next gate over. I just wanted to buy you a little more time, okay? And I'm like, all right. So I had initially had a direct flight from Houston to Chattanooga. It's one of the handful of places you can go to directly from that little tiny airport. And so I'm like, oh, well, all right, that's not such a big deal. I can do that. And then I get to the airport. And I was flying American. I now have a rider. I don't fly American and I don't fly United. But at the time, I didn't have that rider, so I'm flying American. And I get in, and there's a line of people around the lobby in the Houston airport, 127 people long. I know because I had time to stand there and count them. And it's because the American Airlines counter is down. And I'm like, well, good thing I still got friends and family in Texas. I'm probably not going to get that. Yeah. So I'm bored. I pull out my phone and I text the nice lady and I'm like, hey, listen, thanks. I appreciate your effort. I genuinely do, but I don't think I'm getting out of Texas tonight. And she was like, use the kiosks. I don't see any kiosks. And right as I'm about to ask her, is a description of where they are. And it was weird because they were like around the corner beside and behind a thing. And so I kind of lean out of line and I look and I'm like, okay, I don't think they work. They were roped off with like that tape, stand thing, crowd control jobby. And I was like, I don't think they work. Nobody's using them. And her entire response was, nobody's using them because nobody's using them. Go try. And by this time, because obviously I'm a total quiet wallflower, I'm like friendly with a lady behind me. And I'm like, hey. And she's like, all right, I'll hold your space. But if that works, you don't say shit. You come back here and tell me. And so now the cat's over here doing this. And let me get mine. And then we'll tell all these people. And I was like, yeah, all right. Okay. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but now she's trying to get into a cabinet. I'm not making this up. This is this furry little jerk over here doing that.
She's taking full advantage of the distraction, yes, right?
She's just being a monster, which is her default, quite frankly. I mean, we love her to death. We really do, but she is a monster. Anyway, so I go and try it. Sure enough, it works fine. Why they're roped off, I have no idea. Why the counter people weren't directing ever, because there's a bank of 6 of them. What is happening here? But anyway, I get mine, I do my thing, and I go through security. Obviously, I tell the nice lady first, and then we tell everyone else, because we're not monsters, So I go through security. It's a breeze. Not everybody's made it through, And I pass my original gate, and sure enough, that flight is canceled. And I'm like, oh, right on. But I'm still going home. I get to my gate, and the flight is delayed 45 minutes. And if you fly a lot, you know what that means. They're going to cancel it. It's coming. And I'm like, well, it was a nice try. E for effort, ma'am. So I pull out my phone, and how close are you to Nashville? And I was like, listen, I like the way you think. But the fact is, I'm actually much closer to Atlanta. Chattanooga's right on the state line. We were not even 100 miles from Atlanta, and routinely the little puddle jumping flight would get canceled. So I just rent a car and drive home. So I told her I would just do that. I was like, if you can get me to Hartsfield, I can just drive home from there. She's like, nope, I'm going to get you home tonight. And if you have to rent a car, you're not going to make it home till tomorrow. I'm going to get you home tonight. Is there someone who can pick you up? And I'm like, well, I'll ask my poor husband. It's like a 3-hour round trip, but he's a nice man, and I think he likes me. Maybe he'll go for it. And so he did. And so that's what happened. She changed my flight. I flew into Atlanta, and he picked me up, and we pulled up to our house at 11:58 p.m. And we had a little thermometer on the dash, and it clicks over to 32 degrees, and it starts to snow.
Wow.
And I was like, damn. So the next day, because it's really late, so the next day I pull out my phone again. I'm like, hey, listen, I just wanted to say thank you. I really appreciated that. You did, in fact, get me home that night. And that was practically a miracle. That's insane. It's almost like you're psychic or something. And her entire response, and I'm telling you, I have showed this text exchange to dozens of people. Okay, I had receipts, and then my phone died. And now I don't. But dozens of people saw these receipts before I lost them. She says, "Oh, ha ha ha! It's funny you should say that. That was my old side gig, but now I'm retired. I worked with the Houston Police Department for nearly 20 years and worked on about 24 cases."
Oh man, that's wild.
I was just staring at my phone like, I'm sorry, you're a psychic travel agent. And she's like, oh yeah, sometimes it really comes in handy. You get a vibe about a flight and you're just like, not this one. And I was like, you booked my travel. You know what I do for a living, right? She's like, yeah, you're an author, aren't you? I'm like, mm-hmm. And you understand I'm going to steal that. And she was like, God bless. Have a good time with it, hon.
Wow.
I don't even know the woman's name, but she was an older woman in the Houston area. And now I've made her a millennial in Seattle, but
wow. I wonder if she knows. I wonder if she's
I don't know. I hope she does. I hope she
no,
does.
I mean, she
come on, how psychic are. But that's right. It can't be that consistent. It can't really be like 100% thing.
I love it.
But that kind of collided with like the final piece that actually got that started. There was, I don't think there is any longer. I'm pretty sure it's gone now. An import store in this big warehouse in downtown Seattle, in the old abandoned warehouse district, as we like to joke about TV shows. But it was called Far-Fetched. And every time I went by that place and saw the sign, I'm like, man, that's a great name for a place like that. And that idea collided with the idea of a travel agency. Like, well, that'd be a great idea for a name of a travel agency, which collided with, all of the other things. And eventually I had a ball of stuff big enough that I could put into a book.
I love that image of the ball. Love it. Because it's so true, like the way that ideas kind of gather and form. But I'm so curious, like, where did the karaoke play in? And what is your experience with karaoke? I got to know.
Not great. I am not a great singer. I'm a competent singer, but I have a very narrow range because I have a low voice for a woman, and I know that. My sister sounds like a dude. We lived in a girls' dormitory together for a while in high school and college, and like every now and again, someone would come running out of the bathroom like, "There's a guy in the girls' bathroom." Like, no, it's my sister. She just sounds like that. But I know I have a lower voice for a woman, and not a lot of stuff is pitched for women at this range, so I don't do a lot of karaoke. I can pretty well match Lana Del Rey most of the time, and sometimes Amy Winehouse when she's not too, like when this one's not too low and that one's not too high. I can do theirs.
That's awesome. But where does I would say, so viewers who don't know, there's this fantastic element in the book where our psychic travel agent has like a little side gig where she does something called clairvoyant karaoke, and it is the coolest because she gets up on stage and she performs karaoke, but she uses the songs to kind of connect psychically with the audience and
like
kind
a
of
fortune cookie, you know?
and she kind of brushes up her skills. She uses it sort of as a tool to kind of practice and brush up her psychic skills, and I love that. Where did that idea come in to like bring that into the ball?
With a couple things knocked together, you know. One of them was kind of thinking about like, well, when you're not very good at something and you want to get better, you practice, right? Well, how do you practice something like that in a manner that is low stakes? You know, you don't want to run right to the cops and be like, I'm a little bit psychic, I'm going to help you find missing people. Like, you don't want to do that. But something low stakes. And no. And it sorry, derailed by felines. The dogs are in the living room like snoring at this point, but the cat has to be butthead. Oh yeah. So the other thing, there's an old episode of Charlie's Angels. I know.
Love it. Love
There's
it.
an old episode of Charlie's Angels where there is a magician / mentalist who goes out into the audience and takes like random objects and kind of, you know, oh, I'm going to tell you something about your stuff. Yeah. And I remember watching it the first time I saw it. I'm 47 for what it's worth. So yes, I saw some of this stuff when it came on. I was a small child, but I did see some of it.
Right there with you. You're with a peer here. We're good. We're Excellent.
Good. So like, I remember in the episode, you find out at the end of the episode that Charlie was in the audience and Charlie gave the magician his watch. And I'm like, I'm going to watch for that in reruns because now I'm going to watch for the guy who gives him the watch and then I'll know what Charlie looks like. Because again,
okay.
And yeah, when it came on in syndication a couple of years later, and I was like really psyched, like, I'm gonna finally know what Charlie looks like. The way they framed it, you can't see the guy who hands the watch at any point. No, they anticipated jerks like me. But that kind of was like, well, I don't know. I don't know if it's really credible for somebody to earn a living doing something like that, like in downtown Seattle. Maybe somebody does, and I'm completely wrong. But I thought, well, you know, she probably wouldn't. Whatever the practice would be, she probably wouldn't be getting paid for it. Really, it would have to be something like people who are learning how to do tarot, who hang out at conventions and do free readings, that kind of thing. You know, I've gotten some great readings that way, quite honestly. But it was just kind of all that together, and the bar that inspired Castaways, it didn't really. Some people often, well, where is Castaways on Capitol Hill? In my head, it's roughly where a bar called Unicorn is. And Unicorn is a carnival themed bar, and it's lots of wild color. It's almost like a goth carnival. There's like a lot of black and pink and baby blue and gold and stuff, and they have like unicorn balls, which are basically cake pops and things like that. You know, it's a cool place, but it's a cool themed bar in a cool location. And I don't live over there anymore now, so I don't get over there very often. But I was like, well, but let's do something else. I don't want to like actually use a real place. I don't want to complicate my life to that extent. So you know, we have Vegas. We'll do Vegas. We'll do a Vegas themed place, and it's just kind of like all that together. Well, we'll just do karaoke, and she can practice that way. And so the idea is, you know, she gets people in the audience to hand her little private items. And she kind of hangs on to him for a second, thinks about it, and sees if she can kind of get anything off it. And then she chooses a song for them. And maybe the song is meaningful. Maybe the song isn't. She's not sure what her hit rate is, you know, but it's good enough that it starts bringing in a crowd and more people start coming in for it. And the guy who owns the bar is delighted. And so she drinks for free. And that's how she gets paid. But
one of the things I think that impressed me the most about Grave Reservations was the world building. And we don't often think in contemporary mystery of world building per se. When we talk about world building, we're talking about, you know, fantasy world building or sci-fi world building. And, but this, like the characters were so well drawn. Everything was so rich. It was like, you had this fantastic, really full, robust cast. And this setting, you know, of the bar, which like felt so real and so alive and like everything was just very vibrant. And I'm curious about how much of that came from your world building experience and fantasy. Like, I mean, the world building in this contemporary series is so well layered and rich and robust. And I just thought to myself, this is someone who has a lot of experience building worlds.
Well, honestly, it's just that I lived there for 6 years and I kind of knew the area. And the funny thing is I get comments from readers all the time. Like, I was going to go downtown and do something. And then I was reading Grave Reservation. I was like, oh yeah, no, it is hard to park in that part of town. I think I'm just going to get an Uber. And I've got some people like, why do you talk about parking so much? I'm sorry. Have you been to Seattle? It's insane here. The parking situation is like one of the secret levels of hell.
Oh,
So it's just, so I moved around a lot, like I said, when I was a kid. And one of the first really useful life hacks I ever acquired was how to sound like a local. Like, I pick up accents really easily. I learn my way around really quickly. And I try and plug into everything as fast as I can and kind of like ground myself in whatever my location is right now. And it's, I think it's less world building than just life experience. Like it was how every time, because we moved, I mean, every 2 or 3 years, I've moved probably about 30 times.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so like every time you move, well, but now you're home. Now you got to be home and you don't know how long you're going to live there. So I would try to get as familiar as I could with everything in my new place right away. And I really do think it's just kind of more that, just sort of paying, well, that and like, I got a little bit of pushback from the editor toward the end of Grave Reservations, where it's like on Capitol Hill and there's like all this garbage in the gutter running down, and there's like a homeless guy throwing up over here, and a drag queen kicks this dude, and I'm like, and she's like, I don't know. I mean, Seattle's like a big modern city, you know, surely it's not. And like all my Seattle people are like, oh my God, you really toned down Capitol Hill. No, but I did for the masses.
It was great. Like, that whole scene was so vivid. It was so great. I just felt like I was there. It was awesome.
Are you coming back up again? She might hop back up in my face again in a second here. We'll see. If the screen goes blank and gray, my apologies. That's going to be this monster.
That's totally fine. While we're on the subject of pets, there's one I would love to ask about, because this cover, I don't know if everybody can see it, but this cover has the best teaser. And it's small and it's very subtle, but then once you see it, you can't not see it, because like this is the best. Like, I just, you know, for people who aren't, you know, gore averse, like I just wanted to dive right in as soon as I saw it. But you have a dog on the cover holding a human leg in his mouth. And so I was curious if you could tell us, like, what is the setup for the mystery that Lita and Grady are going to be faced and challenged with solving in this book? And how does the dog tie in?
All right. Well, first, the dog is fine. No harm befalls him. He lives happily ever. He gets a bath. I think that's really the worst of what befalls him. I'll do terrible things to people in fiction, but animals are always safe with me. And I keep getting that question. That's one reason I'm front loading this. I've had easily a dozen people ask me that in the last few weeks. Wow. So it's like, no, the dog is fine. I would warn you if he wasn't, but he's good. So basically Grady and his daughter, so he's a widower and he has a teenage daughter, and they took their dog out to Mount Rainier to hike some trails. God, it is getting dark in here. I'm sorry. I know I'm getting like darker and darker and darker as the sun goes down here. And I'm
in my attic and there's no light up here. So believe me, I'm feeling it.
And I've got my stupid phone, because actually our internet has in fact gone down since we've been on this call. So I'm glad I did this on my phone. But no, you're not allowed to have dogs on all the trails there, but you can have them on a few. And so they took him down for a little hike. It's a couple hours. It's not that far away. And he got loose, and then he was missing for a few days. And they drove down every single day, and they're passing out flyers. You know, have you seen our dog? And our scene begins. The book begins with them in the parking lot handing out flyers, trying to find their dog, and hearing some screaming down one of the trails. And people are saying there's body parts and there's a dog, and they get very excited because they're excited about the dog, and the dog has showed up with a present, a gift. And listen, if you have dogs, you know how hard it is to get those things away from them. I mean, Grayson, who I just heard jingle over in the living room. So he's an older gent now, and he's a little more low key, but he's basically a garbage disposal. We have had a joke for years that he could pass car parts. This dog.
Oh yeah.
He eats the weirdest and grossest, and he's so excited about it. That's a good time. So anyway, the dog has a leg in his mouth, and that's the only body part. So they know somebody's probably dead, and they don't know who. And around the same time, somebody goes to Lita trying to hire her to help him find his missing sister. And the two cases do turn out to be related. It's a man's leg. That's not his sister's leg. That would be too easy. But the cases end up connecting, and the dog is a puppy they found in a Target parking lot. And he's named Cairo after a Beanie Baby. Aww. Which so my brother, my dad and my stepmom rescued St. Bernards and Great Danes when I was a kid, and they ended up with a puppy mill rescue named Daphne because my little brother, who was like 8 at the time, decided he was going to name her after his favorite Scooby-Doo character and himself. Because the dog had paperwork, so they went ahead and filed it. I mean, they had her spayed, and they didn't do her ears or tail, but yeah, screw it. Yeah, here's your paperwork. And so the dog's name was Dame Daphne Alexandria. And by the time he was like 14 or 15, he was kind of embarrassed by that. Because they found this puppy when she was about the same age. I'm like, well, it also needs kind of a stupid name.
That's awesome.
So I have a lion Beanie Baby that somebody gave me probably 20 years ago sitting around somewhere. And the tag on it named him Cairo, and it's about the color of a yellow lab. And I was like, that's dumb enough. All right, we'll do that.
Right in the ball. It goes right in the ball, right?
Right there.
Awesome. How many pets do you have at home?
I just have 3. No, I have. Hey, Grayson, Lucy. You guys all come in here. Grayson and Lucy. Grayson and Lucy. Of course, now they're just ignoring me. No, I have 2 large mutts and a large cat. The cat was the funny noise a friend's car was making when she was a tiny kitten. They drove 12 miles and popped the hood and found this little scrap of a kitten.
Oh, no.
And they're dog people. And they were like, oh, you fostered cats here. This is for you. And we had been, at the time, we only had the one dog. We had Grayson, and he's a Pyrenees mix. And he's just like the most gentle natured creature. We'd been using him to help socialize foster kittens. And he'd also helped socialize some nonverbal autistic kids who had trouble with dogs. Like he's that dog, you know, he's gentle, he's calm, he loves everybody. And he was always just brokenhearted when we took his kittens away. So he decided he was going to hoard this one like a dragon. And we're like, fine, we'll keep a kitten. Because we had another cat at the time, but she was quite old. She didn't like other cats, but she was quite old. We thought maybe she had another couple of years in her. She died a couple of years ago. She was old enough to drink. We're not real sure. She was at least 22.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's amazing.
Our thinking was, well, the kitten she didn't weigh a pound, you know? Like, well, the kitten can't hurt her, and she's too old to catch the kitten. Well, we'll see how it goes. And actually, it worked out pretty good. But we lost her in 2019, and she went on her own terms on top of her favorite heating vent, just took a nap, didn't wake up. An improbably long life, surrounded by people who adore her. And like, you know, we all should be so lucky.
Yeah.
Frankly. But now we're down to Grayson, and then my husband fell in love with this dog at an adopt-a-thon, and we'd been talking about a second one anyway because Grayson was getting really fat, and we thought maybe he could have somebody to run around with. So then we adopted Lucy, and that was a different experience. She was an adult, and they were like, "Oh, she's like 3 years old and fully housebroken and fully vetted." Oh, none of the above. None of the above. She had a serious bowel infection and a UTI and a bad spay job that did something to one of her muscles, and she has continence issues as well. That's what that towel was on the floor when I showed the thing about the cat. She and at the rescue they were using towels instead of pee pads to train them, and so she thinks any textile on the floor is the appropriate place. So we put a pee pad with a towel over it. We got one in my office, one in my husband's, one downstairs in the bedroom. And most of the time she's good, but every now and again she just can't hold it. She's got to have something. And it's really not the deal. But she's Chaos Hound, and I've never had a dog that smart before. She's the reason we have the child lock set on our car.
But does she solve mysteries? I have to know.
When she solved the mystery of how to get into my closet at the Christmas presents one year, she ate her way into a wooden box of smoked salmon. And then
oh no,
she ate 11 ounces worth of hot chocolate bombs that I had gotten for a good friend of mine. And we were panicking when we realized what had happened.
No.
So like we came home and we'd been out a little longer than we meant to. We got stuck somewhere, you know how it goes. And she has this like physicality when she knows she's done something. She's very wagging. Hey guys, how you doing?
Look what I got into.
You don't need to get in there. No, it's fine. And like the moment we opened the door, we're like, shit, what did you do? and Grayson is a tattletale. He's like, Mom, you should see what she did. And he'll just take you right to it. So yeah, she had gotten into the top of a closet, of a closed closet. She had gotten into the top shelf. I'm not sure how, and I don't want to know. Dragged everything down, helped herself. And we were having a good panic about it until I looked it up online. She's about 90 pounds. And she would have had to have eaten about 4 pounds worth to really make her sick. So
gosh.
She had the runs for a day or two, but she was mostly fine.
So you've got like a whole house of inspiration. Like you've got the ball is constantly moving and picking up in your house.
It is. And Grayson was so easy. You know, he was housebroken in 4 days when he was 5 months old. He's gentle. He asks permission for everything. I never had any problem introducing him to other animals. He will make friends with anything that will be friends with him. Lucy, she loves puppies, She was dumped in a pound with her babies. And a rescue group pulled her because they had some more puppies whose mother was hit by a car. They were looking for a wet nurse. And she raised all the babies. She loves babies. She loves tiny dogs.
Aww.
But anything like corgi-sized or larger is a case-by-case basis because she's an alpha bitch. I mean, she's literally an alpha bitch. She needs to be the boss all the time or she doesn't really feel safe. And she loves her favorite thing, a nasty, mean little dog. Oh, a mean little dog that wants to beat her ass. That is a good time. Yes. She doesn't hurt them or anything. She just really enjoys the snarling and snapping and bouncing. And she's like making these murder noises and wagging and jumping. And her ears are up. You know, it's like, you're enjoying this, you little jerk.
So I've got to ask.
Yeah, they're very different.
Because I know John's going to be rolling in, and if I don't get a chance to ask this question soon,
I told you I will just natter for like.
I'm going to hate myself if I don't get a chance to ask this question. So I have to ask. Speaking of like houses with strong personalities, you had hinted in an email to me.
Oh, the ghost.
And I simply must know. So you got to set this up for us because it's a 130-year-old house.
Yes, It's a little bungalow. It actually wasn't built on this lot. It was built over on First. I live on the top of Beacon Hill. This house was built over on First Hill, a few miles away. And it was relocated either in late 1950 or early 1951. And a handful of years ago, some flippers got hold of it, took it to the studs. And it's officially a new build as of 2018, as far as the city is concerned, which is great. I love old houses. I had one in Tennessee. I had a Victorian we worked on for years. And they mostly did a real nice job. They finished out our basement. This is relevant because now that's where our master bedroom is. And it's real, like we can't really hear anything going on upstairs from there. And not long after we moved, so one of the things we know about this house, which has been here since the 50s, because this is one of those neighborhoods where like most of my next door neighbor inherited his house from his grandmother. You know, the across the street neighbor bought it from her mother, who inherited it from her mother. You know, like everybody's been in the neighborhood a long time. So I got all the hot goss. And apparently this house was owned for a long time, an elderly Italian couple who didn't speak a lot of English. And as my neighbor was telling me, she's like, yes, for 20 years, Mrs. whatever her name was called me Margherita. My name is Janice. And it's not unusual in this neighborhood for people. There's a large Asian population. We have a lot of Japanese people, a lot of Chinese people, a lot of Vietnamese people. It's not that odd if somebody doesn't speak English. It's real odd when they speak Italian. But it was an older couple, and apparently they were very nice. And the old man enjoyed opera music, and they either went into a home or left or something sometime in around 1990 in the 90s. And then the house was a rental for a long time, kind of really fell into disrepair until the flippers bought it. So that's all we knew about it. And when we first moved in for a while, my husband had a job where he was gone for a week out of every month. So I was home alone. And I'm not easily spooked. Our house in Tennessee was literally on a Civil War battlefield. Okay. Like, I'm not that easy to, I write horror for a living. I'm not hard. You're going to have to work harder than that to scare me, Mr. Ghost, you know. But the first weird thing we noticed, and we knew that they had a little dog, but we don't think this was their little dog. I'd be in bed downstairs by myself at night. And something would hop onto the foot of the bed and and come up beside me right here. And it's easy to go, well, that's my imagination. You know, it's dark. I'm sitting here on my phone. I've got another cat. But I mean, you got to understand, by the time we lost the elder cat, she weighed like 4.5 pounds. That cat was like 12 pounds most of her life. She got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. That one is nearly 20.
Yeah.
And like, there's no mistake. Like, you knew which one had hopped on the bed. This was something very light and very small. And eventually I said something to my husband about it, but my husband is like, he fancies himself an EMP of all things paranormal. He does not believe things and things do not happen around him. I should say he did feel that way. Because the first time it happened to him, he lost his shit. He was like, I can see little feet. There's little footprints and there's no feet. And then one night it hops up and comes over here, and Quinny, the cat, was right here. And this is where the older cat used to always sleep. And now Quinny was here and she was asleep. And I'm watching this thinking, well, this is going to be interesting. And it gets right up to her and she startles awake and looks and it goes, oh, it's just you. Goes right back to sleep. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to decide that's not the old Italian couple's dog. I think maybe that's the elder cat. Okay, well, no big whoop. And once, me and my husband talked about that, he felt a little better about that. But then he started hearing opera music in his office, which was probably the parlor. This was only a little bungalow at the time. And he was like, who's playing that? Where's that coming from? It sounds like it's on a record player. Is that our neighbor? He'd go outside. He doesn't hear anything. And then we started seeing, and I if it is the nice old Italian man, great. But our running joke is that, like, maybe he's British because he always seems very, oh God, I'm so sorry, and vanishes like the moment we spotted him. The first time I really got a good look for a relative value of these things with, I'm sorry, this is, like I said, this is my phone and it is settling, and I know I'm crooked here. But so I'm downstairs on my phone in bed reading. It's my wind down. And so I see very, very poorly. I've been functionally blind since I was a little kid. I'm in contacts right now. I'm not correctable to 20/20, but I had to drive earlier and I can't drive in my glasses. My contacts, I can see into the future. In my glasses, but I can't see anything within like this far of my face, In my glasses, my near vision is quite good, but my distance is poor, and I have no peripheral vision anywhere around the lenses. So all of this is real. I'm like at a -9, if that means anything to the people who don't see well in this eye, and about 8.75 in that one. So I really don't see very well at all. So I'm in my glasses and I'm looking down my nose at my phone. So I really can't see anything around like this. So the bedroom door is pushed closed a little bit because he'd been on the phone upstairs and the TV. And I was like, but it wasn't shut all the way. So I do see it swings open and he comes in. And he comes and stands by the bed and the light's on, like there are lights on and everything. This isn't like in the dark and I barely saw it. This is like door swings open, dude walks in, stands beside the bed. And I'm like, oh, hey, would you turn the fan on before you come to bed? Because we use it for white noise. And he didn't say anything. And I looked up and I just saw like dark and nothing. It was like something just went poof. And I sat there like, huh? Because it wasn't frightening. It was just confusing. Yeah. I was like, oh, and I'm looking at the door's still open. I know I closed it. Wow. It just sweep and then do. Oh God, you've seen me, poof. And it's happened like once or twice since, I'll come home, open the door, and it looks like somebody's walking out the back door. And and then it like, oh, poof. Like it's like this easily embarrassed, like the old Monty Python skit. Are you easily embarrassed? Just, oh God, I've been spotted. And like once in a while you'll set something down and not get up and not go anywhere or do anything, and it's not there anymore, and you'll find it like in another room. And I don't really know what that's about. But it's not frightening. And my approach to that kind of thing has always been like, I'm an open skeptic. I don't believe every ridiculous story I've ever been told or anything. But like if you're here, I feel like there's a lot in the world I don't understand, and I'm not likely to understand, and I'm at peace with that. Just don't bother my animals. Like if not bothering my animals, if my animals are okay, we're cool. I don't care. You were here first, fine with me.
That's
and
awesome.
That's the deal.
It seems very fitting that an author of horror should have some interesting stories about her home. So I love that.
The Tennessee one, there was nothing ever. And like we were literally on where the Battle of Lookout Mountain occurred. Like that's where my house was.
Right.
And nothing but this place that's a new build as of 2018. And look, I got the history on it. Like I have a photo of it from 1937 blown up on glass and hanging in the stairwell downstairs, because I am that nerd who wanders in the historic society. Is like, hi, I bought an old house. You want to tell me about it? And so they, like 6 weeks later, because I had to send off for information to like the King County instead of the Rainier Valley one, and I get this lovely email just packed with census records and photos of the place, and they're like, well, as I'm sure you know, the house was relocated from its original lot in 1950 or 51. I'm like, why would I know that? I'm reaching out to you. I don't know anything about this house.
Fascinating. Where did it come from? Do they know?
Well, yes, I have the address, and I looked it up, and I think I have an idea why they moved the house. So we know that it was in late 1950 or early 1951, and I think in 1952 is when the new juvenile detention facility opened up across the street from that address.
Ooh.
So I think either like it was annexed and the city paid to move them, or they were like, I don't want to live across the street from a jail.
Right.
And I think maybe the house on the other side was moved at the same time. They looked to me like they were sister houses. Very, very similar. That shotgun bungalow thing going on. They even have similar rail work in the old picture that I have. And oh wait, I think we got a Lucy. Oh, hang on.
We have it on. Hello, Lucy.
Oh. You go, girl. Yeah. Slurpees.
Well, I can't wait for that house. I can't wait for that house and all of its inhabitants to end up in the ball for a book, a story. So what's next before John comes back? What's next on your plate? What do you have going?
I don't know yet. I would really like to write more of these, but you know how it goes. We got to see how they sell. And so I've got some thoughts for a new one here, but I'm noodling with a couple of things. We're shopping a project right now, but pandemic, everything's taking forever, called Marrowstone. That's a haunted house gothic set in this very, very, very rural island out here. I took a writer field trip out there with my friend Kat Richardson. She wrote the Grey Walker books. She's completely awesome. She's like my local guy. I'm like, Kat, writer field trip. I'm done.
Love it.
Like, we stayed in this old alcohol plant that's like the nearest place. There's no hotels on this island. People they got mail general delivery until literally 2 years ago, when the general store at the center of the island, which was like the only store on the island, that all mail arrived there general delivery. So when we went out there last year, there are all these brand new mailboxes at the end of these little streets because everybody has to get their mail delivered now. But it's in the middle of nowhere, and basically, a house washes up on shore one night in a storm, and the only woman who knows what it means drops dead of a heart attack when she sees it.
Oh, I love it.
And her grandson goes missing, and a couple of his old friends come out to the island to try to find him. And so I really, Grayson put his head in and then left. So I really want that to find a home. It is spookier, and I start playing. So my family's Scandinavian, so I start playing with some of the old Volga imagery with the cool old magic ladies and their badassery and whatnot, and it gets spooky and weird and very gothic.
I love it. I will look for it. Yeah. But meanwhile, I am such a huge fan. And you mentioned the importance, especially with series, very, very important. Pre-orders and sales and buying books from your favorite local indies, all very, very important, especially to the life of a series, which a lot of people don't realize. So if you have not yet purchased a copy of Flight Risk, Murder by the Books would be more than happy to help you with that. And I, for one, am so excited to read this. I cannot wait to see what comes next for the whole cast and the dog.
I want to hang out with
and the poor dude. But thank you so much for talking with me. I had such a great time.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me and for being in conversation, as they put it.
Absolutely.
Murder by the Books, folks. Obviously, I love this store. I haven't been in a while, but I've stopped by there a couple of times over the years, and I love their dogs. They have wonderful dogs at that store.
Candy corn dogs. I saw the candy corn dogs.
Yeah. So we've got a couple questions from the crowd, but before we get into those, Elle, can you tell everybody a little bit about the Finlay Donovan series?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on. Well, Finlay Donovan series is also an adult mystery, contemporary mystery series. Light, very fast moving. I like to think it's very funny. And it's about Finlay Donovan, who is a divorcee, who is a struggling single mother of two, and a romantic suspense novelist who is overdue on a book. And she's
where would you get those ideas?
Who knew? Who knew? The ball just rolls right through. And she's overheard discussing the plot of her latest book when someone mistakes her for a contract killer and attempts to hire her to murder her problem husband. And that kicks off the series. And we've got I'll be out to visit you in February for the release of the third book. We're so excited.
Well, hey, if you ever end up in Seattle, I'll take you out for drinks. We've
I would love to.
Team Seattle crew out here of the Seattle writers, where we just drag people out. And
I would love to. That would be great fun.
Okay, so we've got a couple questions. I'm going to pitch these to both of you. We're going to start with Cherie for this one. How do you decompress after you finish a book?
I watch a lot of TV, and I smoke a lot of weed, and I drink a lot of rum or wine. I mean, honestly, it's legal here. Nobody cares. I have ADHD and a lot of really intense OCD things, and I find it really kind of helps my brain like stop. Although I have noticed that, so it messes with my short-term memory, which is what makes it so great for anxiety, because you forget what you were worrying about. But sometimes I'll be watching TV and a commercial will come on and I'll laugh at it or something and think, wait, what show was I watching just now? That's when it's time to put it down and go to bed. But no, mostly I don't travel a lot anymore. I stay home. I play with my animals. I watch some movies. I play a lot of video games. So just kind of anything else in any other media to consume to kind of break whatever vibe I was in at the time.
And all that good stuff feeds the ball too. I do the same
thing.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah.
I binge watch because when I'm on a deadline, I don't let myself get caught up in like new shows and all the new releases and the books that have come out. And as soon as that deadline is over, the first thing I do is binge watch all the shows, read all the books I have not written that are written by everybody else, and try to catch up on all the the fun stuff that I missed.
Yeah. Do either of you have specific things that you do to celebrate when you release a new book out into the world?
Not really, honestly. I mean, at this point, I'm not even sure how many there are. I'm running out of people to dedicate them to, which is why Grave Reservations is dedicated to my sister. She's like, you never dedicate anything to me. I'm like, you don't read my books. Why do you care? So I did it to be funny. No, I generally don't. I've spent all week. I mean, that little whiteboard behind me, that's just been like this month. Like this week. It has been a week. There really hasn't been a lot of time to do anything celebratory.
I sleep. I'm
going to clean the house.
It comes out.
Yeah, I'm going to clean the house. I'm going to make a Target run. I really need to make a Target run. We're almost out of paper towels.
That's a glamorous life we lead, man.
Yeah. We're low on dog food. I mean, come on. Well, we're low on dog treats. That also is not acceptable. So.
What is, and you can't say each other's books, that's my caveat. What is something that you have read lately that you've loved? Let's start with Cherie.
Well, like Elle, I don't read a lot when I am working or on deadline or have something coming out, but also I have a day job gig at the moment, and that's eating up some time. The thing I read most recently, since I just mentioned Kat, she's working on a manuscript that she's been playing with for a while, and I played beta reader for that, and it's basically like this wild magical noir 1930s mystery.
Ooh.
And it's super cool. And I'm so excited about it. She's been talking to an editor or two. I really hope it finds a home. Beyond that, I think the last thing I read, and it was for blurb, and I felt bad because I missed the blurb cut off. But it was Amy, and I'm going to blow her last name. I'm so sorry. She's a brand new writer. Her book came out through Tor.com, and it's called Self-Portrait with Nothing. And it's this really, really strange And I mean, like capital S strange in a really good way. This woman, as an infant, was left on a doorstep, and she finds out that her birth mother was a fairly famous artist who is now apparently dead and has left her this estate. And there's something, she's doing something very, very strange with the paintings. And they're doing very, very odd things with reality. And it was just, there are some bits and pieces in that in particular. I mean, it's all good, don't get me wrong, but there were a couple of pages where it's like, this is really good. This person really has a career coming. This is, I hope it's a brutal industry, and an awful lot of really, really, really good writers that I came up with 20 years ago have left now. I hope she stays. I think she's going to be one of the greats.
Awesome.
Well,
and how about you?
I'll give you a couple recommendations here. If you are a fan of Grave Reservations and Flight Risk and Finlay, and you're looking for something kind of along that same beat, I am a huge fan of one that's getting ready to come out by Colleen Oakley, which is the mostly true story of Tanner and Louise, and it is a wonderful. Imagine Thelma and Louise if one of them was an octogenarian and one of them was a 20-something, and they are on the run from the law together. And there's kind of a mystery happening sort of in the background. And it was so fun. And it was light, it was fast, it was fun, it was beautifully written. Loved it. That was by Colleen Oakley. And then for our horror fans, because both of us have some horror in us, and I'm sure some of our readers watching are curious. I read two fantastic horrors that just came out in October. So John can get you more information on these. But one is called Loot by Jennifer Thorne. And it was like the most gorgeous atmospheric horror I think I've ever read. It was just phenomenal. And Megan Shepard's Malice House. And if you're a fan of Megan Shepard's YA, this is her adult debut, and she knocked it out of the park. It was phenomenal world building. It's very, very creepy, and it kind of gave me Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children for grown-ups with like a fantastic, horrifying twist to it. Really, really good stuff.
Oh wait, before we do anything, I just now looked up the author's name because I didn't want to leave that hanging. Her name is Amy Pokwatka, Pokwatka. And it's Self-Portrait with Nothing. It's not a very long book, but it is a really, really good book. So awesome. I just wanted to throw that out.
And I've just dropped links for all of those in the comments for anybody watching if you want to get more information about all of those. So I think that is going to do it for us tonight. So just a recap for anyone who might have joined us late, we have been chatting with Cherie Priest, whose book Flight Risk comes out November 15th officially. But if you order it from Murder by the Book, we do have copies now, and we've got signed book plates, so you can get it before it's
bad at promo. I forgot I had this.
I got you.
And we've been chatting with Elle Cosimano, whose most recent release is Finlay Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead, and she's got the upcoming Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun. She will be at the store in February, and so you can pre-order signed copies of that. If you missed any part of our chat once we're done, Facebook and YouTube will archive them so you can rewatch. So if you want to see Cherie chat with Gwenda Bond about Grave Reservations, that's still up on the YouTube channel. We've been lucky enough to chat with Elle for the first two Finlay Donovan books. Those are also up on the YouTube channel too, as well as all of the other virtual event stuff that we've been doing. Cherie, it's so good to see you again. Like you said, it's been so long since you've been to the store. At some point, we'll have to get you back and hang out. And Elle, it's so great to see you again, and I can't wait to actually get to see you in person in a couple of months.
Very excited. Thanks so much. It was great. Congratulations.
Thank you for all the things. Again, both of you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.